Welcome to the Nestled podcast. I'm April.
And I'm Bailey. We are friends and neighbors who left our design business to champion a message of hospitality.
We live in a time where deep connections are so hard to come by.
But we want no part of that.
Our desire is for people around us to be seen, heard, and known.
And we want to take you on that journey with us.
So come back each week to take a peek in our nest.
As always, the door will be open.
Hey guys, welcome to the Nestled podcast. I'm April.
And I'm Bailey, and we are so glad that you're here for another week.
Yay!
We are hobbling along once again. Yeah, I feel like I've never listened to these chronologically, and I probably never will, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I did, I'd be like, man, for a couple years there,
we
had a lot of struggles week to week.
When you find a new podcast and then you just listen to a bunch of their episodes, I feel like if you listen to all of ours in a row, it would be like, well, guys, we're really struggling.
Right.
And hobbling, literally. Elijah, I mean, if it was after a long day, we'll probably tell this whole story later, but he's on crutches, so, literally hobbling.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. But we're here. All of our kids have survived.
We're still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about comparison and friendship. We'll probably start out talking about the comparison aspect of it, but then continue just talking about friendship in general.
Yeah.
I think adult friendships can be so hard to navigate, and it is different than previous seasons in your life. And so you have to kind of relearn how relationships work, especially once you have husbands and wives and kids involved. Yeah, it changes things.
It does change things, but knowing that we were created for relationships, it's really important. And I think that maybe friendships is something that, I don't know, as grown women, maybe it's more of a struggle than any other season of our lives. Things start to get really weird.
Yeah, and I think friendship is absolutely 100% necessary and worth it, but it's also messy.
It's very messy.
And can be hurtful and, can cause some of the biggest hurts in your adult life, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's why you got to work so hard to maintain your friendships.
And we weren't surprised necessarily to see that friendship was something that people said they struggled with comparing, because we know just from personal experience that that's something that women typically do struggle with, is that they look and they see relationships that other people have, and there's this longing in them for that relationship, but it goes to an unhealthy place when you start to not just look and recognize it, but it becomes this envy and jealousy that takes root in your heart because of seeing what your perception of what other people have in relationship looks like.
Right. And I think that it's important for us to remember, especially in the social media era, because let's be honest, 20 years ago, the moms didn't have to, maybe they felt loneliness, sure, but they didn't have to have days where they felt lonely and then hop on Instagram and suddenly feel like they're the only ones feeling lonely because they're seeing all these girlfriend shots or whatever, where it seems like everyone else has these great relationships and everybody else is on park dates and this, that, and the other. But we have to remember, just like with everything else, you're getting a snapshot.
Yes. And you're getting someone's highlight reel.
Yes. And things are not usually as simple or how they appear.
Right.
Ever.
Never. And, we can really, in our minds, and I think that it is a ploy of the enemy that we build out this entire thought process and we can make a whole story out of something or out of nothing. And, we make a lot of assumptions of how things are. And I think that relationally, our friends and the relationships that they have with other people, or even people that you don't know, but you see relationships that they seem to have, and you look at it in comparison to your own, and then it turns into this jealousy monster that takes over, and all of a sudden you don't have what other people have.
Right. I think too there's such a trap with people see someone who they feel very close to hanging out with someone else.
Yeah.
And they have this whole narrative in their head of why they didn't get invited. And they can feel very just left out and hurt, and or even say, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Why didn't they invite me? And for all you know, like, that person bumped into the other one at Target and said, hey, let's go hang out at the park.
Yeah.
Or one of them was having a really hard day and she needed to talk to somebody about something, and so they got together. Well, of course, none of that's on social media.
Yeah.
But you can't take it personally when other people are your friends are hanging out with other people.
Right. Yeah, and there's also this thing that it gets lost along the way, but I just think that benefit of the doubt is like something that it's part of, I mean, that's just a way of saying like offering grace to people, but I think that we should usually just assume the best instead of assuming the worst.
Especially in your friends.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you have friends that are really mean to you, like, those are not your people.
Right.
So stop trying to fit in with some people who don't want you there.
Right.
That sounds really harsh.
Well, no, I'm glad you said that, because I think right here at the beginning of this episode, let's just say, stop trying to impress the cool crowd.
Yeah.
Stop begging to be in a clique that isn't putting in the same, like, thought and energy into a relationship with you. If you feel like, I'm trying so hard to be friends with this person and they don't want to be my friend, or this group of people and I keep being left out, go find friends that want you there.
Yeah.
I don't mean that to sound harsh, but, like, do yourself the favor of letting go of that and finding your people.
Yeah. And y'all, friendships and the struggles there start so early. We've been having a conversation with our middle school daughter about friends and how what it looks like, what we call in our house your fake friends versus your real friends. And it doesn't mean that now you're mean to those people that we call fake friends. But essentially, if you have people that don't have your back, if you have people in your life who call themselves your friends, but then they are talking bad about you, or they, like, I don't know, even we've been dealing with some stuff with our daughter of, like, her friends not taking up for her when other people are saying things about her. And I'm like, that's not really, those are not going to be your people lifelong. That doesn't mean that you completely cut them out of your life, and you can still be nice to them and be friends with them, but you have to learn that there's kind of a line of, like, these are not the people that I can trust with my whole heart. And, you know, still allow the Lord to use you in those relationships as you see fit, but, like, find the people that you know are going to have your back no matter what. Right.
Yeah, my kindergartner even, her best friend is a mean girl. And she always, like, we'll get her to a place where we think that we have her understanding why that is not really her friend.
Yeah.
And then the next day it's like, well, she promised she'll never do or say that again. And so we're best friends again, you know?
Right.
But here's the thing. When you're in elementary school, when you're in middle school, when you're in high school, frenemies are unavoidable.
Right.
Because you see them every day. They're in your classes. They're on the cheerleader squad with you. You're running in the same circles. You can't just cut those people out.
You still have to interact.
Right. However, as adults, there's no reason we should have frenemies.
Yeah.
If there's someone who is nice to your face, but you know they're awful behind your back, you know they wish you ill will.
Right.
You know that they are a negative force in your life.
Yeah.
Let it go. Let them go. Like, cut them off. You don't have to continue to engage with that person anymore.
And that doesn't mean that we like, are now mean to those people.
No.
I mean, as Christians, we are called to love our enemies, to bless those who persecute us, to love those who hate us. And I do think that also applies to our friends and people that aren't really our friends, but people that pretend to be. We can still be nice to people, but we can also go, okay, this is not healthy for me, and this is causing me to really feel like I'm not enough.
Right.
And if that's where you are, obviously, the thing that we come back to every time is that you need to find your identity in Christ.
Right.
Because, well, let's be honest, we're not enough.
Right.
We're all going to let each other down.
Right.
So that's why we need Jesus, is because he is enough. But you need people that are at least trying.
Right.
To be your friends.
Well, and I think that when we accept that about ourselves, that we're never going to be enough, we're so much better at extending that to other people.
Yeah.
But if we're not there, and, like, it's so easy to expect people to be more than they can be for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important lesson to learn, both for ourselves and so we can extend that to the relationships around us.
Yeah. And so our encouragement in that, in the comparison side of friendship, is to not be frozen by feeling like you're the only one because you're looking around at everybody else, that you're the only one that doesn't have friends, or that you're the only one that's uninvited. So don't let that fear and that jealousy take root in your heart to where now you're just frozen. Right. And you're not building any relationships.
Right. And also, there are seasons in life where it may seem from the outside looking in to your friends that you have a lot going on. And so when they're going and getting together and doing something, they may just assume that they don't want to put that on you. They don't want to put the burden on you to have to always say no. Because sometimes I find that to be a burden. If I have to be like, sorry, once again, I can't go. And then I'm thinking maybe somebody's going to be mad about it because I never go to anything. But if that's you and you want to go, express that to your friends. Don't just be mad at them because they never invite you anywhere. Say to them, hey, I know I have a lot going on, but I still need to see people.
Yeah.
I still want to be with you guys.
Well, and even just saying that, you know, I still appreciate the invite. I'm sorry that I have to say no as much as I do, but please continue to invite me because when I can, I will.
Right.
And I know I have to say a lot of no's before I can get to a yes, but if I don't know, then I can't say the yes whenever it is there.
Right. Yeah, whenever we came home from Columbia with Maisie, it was probably a good 6 months before I could really give a yes.
Yeah.
But I never felt guilted by my friends whenever I gave those no's.
Yeah.
And then when I was able to go, I was there.
Yeah.
You know? So let's just keep that in mind. Okay, so now we're going to move into, I don't know, some of these things continue to fall under comparison. Some of it is just like our adult
version.
Yeah, this is our girl talk advice to you about our view on friendship.
Yeah.
And trying to like dispel some myths and also just give you encouragement.
Yeah.
Moving forward, because I know a lot of people struggle with this.
Yeah.
And I have struggled with some of these things at times.
Yeah, same. I think we all have. And, you know, there's even, because we've worked together and because we are friends, we also go to church together and we're neighbors. There's a lot of comparison of people looking at us and assuming things about our relationship that aren't always true.
Right.
And so in that's why we're kind of coming from a place of like, give some people grace.
Right.
Your perception is not always accurate.
Right.
But also, like, here are some ways that you really can cultivate relationships that there's really nothing that we've seen so far.
Right.
That can tear those things away.
Right. And let's just go ahead and say, like, do we get to do a lot of fun things together? Yes. Am I so grateful for the friendship and relationship built on trust that we have? Yes. But we also have, like, shown up and walked through really ugly seasons with each other.
Yeah.
It has not all been fun and games, and that is how the relationship got to where it is.
Right.
Is being building that trust through those really tough seasons.
And being able to say the hard things.
Yes.
And then...
And being able to accept the hard things.
That's what I was going to say. And be the receiver of the hard things.
Right.
And still know that it's because we want what's best for one another. And that's the thing that I think is a piece that I can see in all of the relationships that I would say. These are the ones that, like, the test of time has proven that these are the real people for me. These are my friends that are going to be there for me no matter what. And even in changing of seasons, which we'll talk about, it's those. It's the ones that we've gotten to a point where, like, we're willing to do and say the hard thing, but we're also willing to receive the hard things, and it's not surface level.
And that extends to your children.
Yeah.
You know, I can always, if April comes to me with something that my child has done or said or whatever, I know, like, she is in my village.
Yeah.
And you are helping me raise these kids, and you love my kids. And
Absolutely.
so whenever there's correction that needs to happen or what have you, I know that it comes from a place of, I love them and I love you and I know you want to know this, not from a place of, I'm coming to tattle on this kid who I don't really care about. You know, there's a difference
Yes.
in that. Because I think you need to know that they're the worst.
Yes.
And I want everybody to hear me tell you this.
Yes.
Because there's some of that.
Yeah.
With, you know.
And I think that parenting probably, we are way off of our script.
Yeah, this is not what we plan to talk about.
We are really in the weeds. But I think that parenting is one of the hardest things to navigate as adults and friends. Because different parenting, we don't parent the same way. There are a lot of ways that, you know, we're different in the way that we parent our kids. But at the end of the day, I want nothing more than the very best for Bailey's kids.
Right, and vice versa.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I know
I will
that.
cry like a baby at their weddings.
Yes.
And like their graduations.
Even thinking about it, sometimes I cry.
Yeah, we have cried many occasions talking about. I mean, there's going to be like a good 15 years that we're just going to cry.
We're just going to cry. It's going to start very soon because Elijah's 15.
About to graduate.
Yeah. So, I mean, we cried at Maisie's first swim meet. We
it's just
can't hold ourselves together.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
they're going to love us for it.
They're going to be like our moms. Oh my gosh, they're crazy people.
My kids already, when we're watching like American Idol, will be like, "Don't cry." I'm like, "I just can't help it."
I know.
Like,
Elijah the other night was like, "Are you crying? Are you crying?"
Yes.
And I was like, "Yes, and your dad is too, so leave me alone."
Right. Oh, goodness.
This is a very sad story.
Man, American Idol brought
They really stepped up the
year.
stories.
Ooh, but we digress.
Yeah. Okay, so the last 10 minutes, we digress. Okay, so back to our list.
Yes.
Okay.
So, when it comes to friendship, we have to be willing to put in the work and the consistency ourselves. We can't always put that on other people.
Yes.
I can't expect friends to continue to show up for me if I never show up for them.
Yeah.
I can't expect friends to answer every text message for me if I never answer any text messages for them.
Yeah.
Now, there's different levels of this, but in general, that's how the deep friendships are built, is showing up and showing up and showing up.
Yes. And one of those things is whenever you are in an unhealthy place, and you're sitting back and you're saying, no one ever invites me, no one ever texts me, no one ever asks me if I want to go to lunch with them. But flip that around, take some of the burden of that on yourself and say, who have I invited? Who have I texted? Who have I tried to make plans with? And most of the time when you're in that place, the answer is nobody.
Right.
You're in a place of really inward focus and feeling sorry for yourself. And when you get there, we don't see other people.
Right. And that's why we say, stop, like we were saying earlier, stop feeling frozen by feeling uninvited.
Yeah.
Stop feeling frozen by thinking you're the only one that's sitting at home by yourself, because it's not true. And other people need people too.
Yeah. But you've got to put in the work.
And part of putting in the work is accepting invitations when they come. We've all known the people who will, I hate to say whine and complain, but whine and complain on social media about how no one invites them anywhere, or poor pitiful me, I'm just so lonely. And you can even see sometimes on Facebook statuses where people say, well, hey, I'll come pick you up and do this, or I'm doing this tomorrow night. And people will just reply with excuses for why they can't do those things.
Right.
So, and I've had that. I've had people come to me in recent months who are lonely and say, I don't have any friends, I need people. And then I invite them places and they never come. And you know what I do after 2 or 3 times of that? They don't really
stop inviting them.
Yeah, they don't really want to come, so I'm just going to let them go live in their hole for a little while.
Yeah. And
I can't feel bad about it.
Yeah, and I have to, I say often, because, I don't know, friendships were very weird for me for a long time, being a pastor's wife. And I had to get to a point that there are times that I have to say, I'm so sorry that you thought that or felt that. That was not my intention. And I have to leave it there. Like, I can't take on everybody else's hurt feelings as though it's always my fault. Now, sometimes I am at fault and I need to apologize and I need to repent and that. But I'm just saying, like, we have to be willing to put in the work. And friendship takes consistency. Building those relationships takes consistency. And it means showing up time and again.
Right, and that's also why if you meet a new friend at the park and you hit it off and you're fast friends and you start hanging out a lot, that's great. But then you notice that maybe they're closer to some other friends. This also applies often in church settings.
Yes.
You notice that maybe they seem closer to other friends and you're going, I don't understand why. I feel like we have so much in common and we like being together. You have to remember that, like, the longer people are friends with people, that's the more opportunities they have to show up and be consistent and build trust. Those relationships are going to be deeper. That doesn't take away from the relationship you're forming.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, it's not an instantaneous thing.
Yeah.
Like, I have what I call fast friends, and I know part of that is a personality thing, but there are certain people who I meet, and I instantly connect with them, and I'm like, wow, we're best friends now.
Right.
You know, did we just become best friends?
We did.
You know, that's true for me sometimes, but at the same time, how many times have I hit it off with somebody like that, and then we hang out a couple times, and we text a lot, and then it just fizzles out.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But I just say that first instant connection doesn't necessarily mean that you're each other's best friends now, and you ditch all your other people.
Right.
You have to continue to build it. So.
Yeah. And I think that kind of, there is the consistency, but also there's an understanding of seasons of life.
Yes.
And there are relationships that you build and for whether it be college friends because you were together and now you live in different parts of the country, or whether it be church friends and now you go to different churches, or maybe you were neighbors and now you've moved.
Right.
And those relationships were very strong and very consistent, and there was a lot of time and energy put into them. And now, whether it be distance or just season of life, you know, I had friends that before I had kids, maybe we were really close, and then I had kids, and that shifted and it changed. But seasons of life can change relationships, and sometimes we have to just be okay that season is over. That doesn't mean that friendship has no value. It doesn't mean that it meant less or that it means less, but that it may not be the one that is your first phone call anymore.
Right. Yeah, if I only, like, counted on my college friends to be my people now, there's so much that I would miss out on, because as much as I love them, and I do, my college friends, April knows this, they're so special to me.
Yeah.
Because Justin and I moved away to school, and we found our people on our own. And that was our first opportunity to learn what it was like to actually build community.
Yeah.
And we did that together. And we love them, and we stay in touch, but they're not here.
Yeah. And
so how many opportunities would I have missed out on if I was just stuck to my phone to, like, this virtual friendship? Because... and this is the next thing we're going to talk about. Like, we have to have friends who are in close proximity to us.
Yeah.
Those are the people, you know, I'll go ahead and tell a story from yesterday.
Yeah. Yesterday was eventful.
So we said that we were limping along. We planned to record yesterday. Anyway, long story short.
Long story long.
Long story long. I'll start at the beginning of the day. Me and April went and swam laps, so pat us on the back.
That's right. We are on our way to the Olympics.
Right. I mean, we swam 500 yards. So, I mean, I'm not saying we're professionals, 400, but
actually.
It wasn't bad for a first day. So, down near the Wise, Dirt Cheap. And so, I passed by Dirt Cheap, and I have some things that I want to buy from there. And for those of you who aren't from the Southeast, Dirt Cheap is like a big bargain hunt store.
Yes.
Just as it sounds.
It is.
And it is very
fabulous.
Dirty.
And dirty.
It was named well.
Yes.
You know, there's junk everywhere, and I love a treasure hunt, so, like, it's fine.
It used to be called Hudson's Treasure Hunt.
It did, so. Which also made sense.
Yes.
So, anyway, I decided that in the afternoon, I would stop by there and look for a few things, and I did. Mistake number 1. I bought some things I did not need. Mistake number 2. And so, as I was buckling my child in the car, I had this perfect storm of I dropped my keys on my front seat so I could go load this huge purchase in the back. And when I did, I shut the door, and as it happened, I heard those keys lock the door. And I knew what had happened, and I couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
And instantly, I'm like, oh. expletive in my mind. Because that felt like the only appropriate response
to the 1-year-old being locked in the car. And for those of you, just an interruption here, it was very lovely yesterday.
It was a beautiful day.
Sunny and 75.
Which felt wonderful outside of the car.
Beautiful outside of the car.
But, lesson learned, I mean, we all know this, but it gets real hot real fast in the car.
Real hot inside.
And so I, what do? I had 1% of battery on my phone.
Which is your personality in a nutshell.
Right. Right now I have 15%. Who has time to, who remembers to plug their phone up at night? Never me. So I had 1% on my phone, and so I prayed, God, please let this phone call go through to my husband, because I knew I didn't have enough battery to look up a locksmith and call him. So it did go through, and he answers at work, bless him. I'm like, my phone's going to die, and I have to tell you, Miller is locked in the car. I need a locksmith. This is where I am. That was basically the entire conversation, and then I hoped that he understood and that there was a locksmith coming. Okay. So about 10 minutes go by, the baby fell asleep, and so I'm like, okay, we're okay.
She also has on a fleece because it was 49 degrees when we left to take the kids to school yesterday.
She did have on a fleece jacket. So a nice lady stopped and asked if I needed any help, and I told her what happened. I said, can I just borrow your phone to make sure a locksmith is coming? Call my husband. He said, yes, they'll be on their way. I keep waiting, and nobody comes. Long story short, I had to flag down firemen. The baby was stuck in my car for an hour. She looked like she'd been in an oven. It was very scary. And they had to bust my window out. Yeah. Because we couldn't get into the car. Which is fine. I don't care about the window. Right. I just needed my baby to be okay. And she did not stay asleep the whole time. So, the reason I bring that story up is there was glass everywhere. And I needed to go pick up my children from school. Well, if all my friends live far away, what am I going to do? Yeah. What would I do?
If you're still hanging on to those college friendships and you haven't built any relationships here,
they can send me a text of encouragement and pray for me, which I needed those things, but they can't physically pick my children up from school. But I was able to get in touch with April, and she was able to get my kids, and luckily she lives close by, so she got to just bring them here. Yeah. And so that is one of those things, though, that we're talking about. You have to show up. You're there in the hard times. That was a hard time. That was not fun.
Miller was not okay with what happened yesterday.
No, she was and she should have been mad with me. It was an unfortunate situation all the way around. But having friends that were in real life close by made it more bearable.
And those are the times that it is just important. Yes. We've told this story on here before about our neighbor who we were with her when her husband died. And she had lived here for years and knew not one person to call.
Yeah, nobody. And she didn't know us.
No.
We casually knew her.
Right. We waved at the mailbox and said hello. Yeah. I took her some soup one time.
Right. We didn't sit in the small room at the hospital where you find out your husband is dead, know her.
Right.
But she had no one.
Had nobody.
And so I think it's not just our friends that were in different seasons, that maybe we lived somewhere else, they moved away or whatever, that we have to make sure they're not our only ones. But guys, we have to make sure our online friends aren't our only ones. Because that is something that so many people have fallen into now, is that their entire community is online. And I get the why people do that, because it's a lot easier. Yeah. Because the really hard conversations and stuff, that doesn't happen.
Well, and the struggles don't happen there either, because let me be really honest. The times that friendships are the hardest is when, we're in the mess of parenting at the park, right, and your kid punches my kid in the face, right, and I don't like the way you handled it, right, and now all of a sudden, that friendship has some serious strain on it. What am I going to do about it? But that's really what happens. That kind of stuff happens.
Or your kid says something inappropriate to another person's kid.
Right.
Or, that stuff happens. And I get how the online communities happen, and I'm not saying there's not a place for that. I'm so thankful to all of our friends online who have kids with dwarfism, because that is my only community. That's my only option for community. There's like 8,000 people in the country with achondroplasia.
Right.
You know, I don't have a bunch of moms around me. But online, I've got some people who I can bounce things off with and encourage, you know, get encouraged by and try and offer them encouragement. So I'm not saying don't have any friendships online.
Yeah. But that can't be your only community.
We can't live in a virtual reality all the time.
Yeah.
Cannot.
That's just not real.
No. So find your people that are close to you. And here's the thing, guys. We said earlier about stop just trying to always hang out with the cool girl. Mm-hmm. Maybe your neighbors aren't who you would pick if you had a catalog of friends to choose from.
Right.
But they're the ones you got. And, you know, like Rosaria Butterfield says, God never gets the address wrong.
Right.
Maybe you got to make them your people.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't look like you expect or talk like you expect, and they don't come from where you thought your buddies would come from, but they're there.
And honestly, even if you have friends, but they're across town.
Right.
You've got to invest in the relationships that are near you.
Right.
You need a community that's like close. Yes. It just is. There is something to proximity.
And I'm not saying that everybody needs to pick up and move to the same neighborhood as their friends. But I also want to say, if you choose not to do that, you can't be jealous of the ones who did.
Yeah.
You know, we intentionally moved to a similar area because we knew what our needs were. And we knew this was a way we could meet them.
Right.
And we knew we wanted to reach out to our neighbors, and we were struggling to do it on our own.
Yeah.
So we said,
we needed someone to help us.
Let's link arms and hold one another accountable. And we've done that. We've stayed true to that, you know.
And it doesn't make, and I want to reiterate, I think I said it earlier, but it doesn't take the value away from other relationships. And so if you're the friend across town and you're like, but I don't understand, or my feelings get hurt because X, Y, and Z, it doesn't mean that your friends don't value you and they don't value the relationship with you. But there is something to walking the neighborhood and running into people.
Yeah, and we do that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
We do, let's be honest, we run into each other, our families run into each other a lot more than we
intentionally
plan and get together.
Yeah.
We very rarely plan and get together because a lot of times April lives a few streets over, and I'm investing in the neighbors right around me, and she's investing in the neighbors right around her, and I'm proud of her for that. I'm not mad at her for that.
Right.
I don't say, what, you got together with your neighbors and you didn't invite me?
Yeah. And sometimes, you get together with your neighbors and you do invite me, and I have to say no.
Right. Or sometimes, like on Monday, she invited her neighbors over, and we were able to go.
Yeah.
And some of us. Yeah, not all of us. Justin didn't get to come. He was working. But, so I like to say, it sure is easier being close together.
Yeah.
And with the way that our families are, like the seasons of life we're in, I'll be honest, if we didn't live close to each other, we'd hardly ever see each other.
Yeah. It's really hard whenever you have a lot of kids and you have kids involved in different stuff to plan all the time. There are a lot of plans. Yeah, a lot of plans have to get canceled. A lot of plans have to change. We had the stomach virus from Hades a few weeks ago that every person that got it we thought they were over it after a few hours, and then it lasted 4 days.
Ugh.
And our whole family passed it around. So we spent our whole Mardi Gras break with a stomach virus, and we had invited 4 families over that week. We canceled every one of those people.
Right.
And so, that is just part of the season of life that we're in. But with the people that are close in proximity to you, it's a lot easier to say, oh my goodness, hey, I just made cookies and we've got some left over. Do y'all want to run over? And it's no big deal.
Right.
Or you walk by and I'm like, oh, why don't y'all stay for dinner?
Right. It makes it so much easier. Again, I'm not saying of good friendships you have to move to the same neighborhood. But I'm also saying, whoever is in your neighborhood.
Be intentional with the people that are around you and build relationships there.
All right, we're going to have to wrap this up soon because we do try and keep it close to 30 minutes. But the last couple of things we wanted to say, guys, make sure that you give lots of grace.
Yeah.
That people really are probably doing the best that they can.
Right.
And don't have a bunch of unsaid expectations and unrealistic expectations, because that's some of the biggest relationship killers.
Yeah.
Is when you expect something from someone but you've never expressed that to them. And I say that as somebody who's had friendships end in that exact way. Of that they got so upset because they had this certain vision in mind for the things I was going to do with and for them, but they never told me. So like, I'm going along with my life
thinking everything's
thinking
fine.
that we're fine, and then this resentment is growing and growing and growing, and I have no idea until it's too late to rein it back in. Yeah. And so check your heart on that, and say, like, if you're mad at someone, think, is this an unrealistic expectation for them?
Yeah.
Or have I even expressed to them?
Yeah. And if someone is expressing their expectations to you and it's something that you can't meet, then you need to be upfront with that too.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I love you and I want to be your friend and I want to be there for you, but I don't have the capacity to offer what you need. And that doesn't mean that I can't meet part of that, but maybe it needs to be that your expectations are that your group of friends are going to be these things for you and not this one
particular person, or that all of your friends can't meet all of these expectations. It's got to be a group effort. Right.
Yeah. And so just giving grace, and like I said earlier, really just extending to people that you think the best of their intentions and not the worst.
Right. And have the hard conversations and tell them if someone has really hurt you, and said something or left you out of something and it really did hurt you, talk to them about it. Yes. I would so much rather my friends tell me when I've hurt them, because I can almost promise you I never intentionally hurt anyone. That doesn't mean I never hurt anyone. Hear me on that. But I never intentionally hurt anyone. Yeah.
And if you are talking about it to other people and not to them, then that is sinful. Yeah. And you need to stop that.
You need to stop. Yeah. And you need, that's a regular part of my script whenever people come to me about other people, is I say, you need to talk to them. I think you need to talk to them.
Right. Okay. So the other thing that we really want to, I think this is a great place to end.
Yeah, I agree.
Is to build your own table and allow others to join you.
Yes.
And what we mean by that is, as Bailey was saying earlier, if you are wanting to be in the cool crowd and the cool crowd keeps not inviting you in, or keeps being mean to you, or whatever it might be, if you feel like you're not fitting in, stop trying to fit into someone else's life and into their table, and build your own table and invite other people in, because I promise there are people around you who also are in need of relationships and friendships, and you can be that to somebody else.
Right.
And so open up your heart and open up your table.
Yes.
And invite people in.
All right, and do we want to do a Nestled in Him challenge?
Yeah.
Okay, so this week's Nestled in Him challenge is, if you have a girlfriend or many girlfriends who are good to you and have stood the test of time, and let's recognize those people.
Yes.
And let's say that, and let's encourage them that we love them.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, why don't you just go ahead and put it out there that, hey, look, I've struggled with this, and I'm tired of comparing my situation to everyone else's, and I'm tired of feeling alone. So if anyone else feels that way, I want you to know that, I want to be your people.
Yeah.
And you're invited here, and you're welcome here. And let's start to walk this out together.
Yeah. And my other encouragement would be, that's the thing that we want you to do publicly, because, guys, we've been so encouraged by the public things that you have said, and some of you have sent us messages privately, and it's just been such a good thing for our hearts to see that the Lord is using this series to really do some cool things. And so, that's really, really awesome. But the private part that I want you to do is, if you're one of the people that's talking about your friends and you have hurt feelings and you're telling everybody else about them and not telling the person who's hurt your feelings, please repent of that and go to that person.
Yes.
And let that relationship be healed, and hope that, and pray that the Lord will restore that. But if not, you've got to stop.
Right. And let me tell you guys, that's gonna offer freedom to that other person, but it's gonna offer freedom to you.
Yes.
Because that became a game changer for me.
Yeah.
When I was willing to have the hard conversations.
Yep.
And when I was willing to accept the hard conversations when people brought them to me.
Yeah.
To humbly admit, like, I can make mistakes.
Right.
Whenever I learned that it was okay to admit that I make mistakes, my outlook on relationships completely changed because I was able to accept when people brought something to me and say, look, I'm so sorry.
I am so sorry. I did not mean that. I did not mean that to hurt you.
Right.
Whatever it might be. But then it also frees me up to just be like, well, just going to rip the Band-Aid off because
Right.
it's worth it.
Right.
It's always worth it.
So thank you guys for continuing to come back. If you're new, just in the last few months or weeks have started listening to this and you've not left us a rating or review, we are so thankful whenever you guys leave those. It really does help other people find us. And when people do find us, it helps other people decide whether or not they want to listen to an episode. I always look at reviews before I start listening to a podcast. And so, like, they really are important. And they fill us up and give us encouragement to keep going.
So encouraging.
Y'all are our friends.
Yeah.
And we're saying, like, call people out. Call us out. Tell us what you like. we would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to read one of the recent reviews from our friend Colby. She said, since listening to you guys talk about comparison and how we all do this without even thinking, I've been constantly trying to fix this part of my heart. Thank you for reminding me what's really important in life. You guys are so fun to listen to. Keep them coming. Thank you, Colby.
Thank you so much.
And I wanted to read that to say to you guys, every single person who is getting in touch with us and talking about how they are finding the parts of their life where they're comparing themselves and they're trying to fix it is such an encouragement to us. Because we know this is just so prevalent.
Yeah.
And it's helping us make sure that we're checking ourselves too on the comparison stuff and just kind of putting it out there and admitting where we do. And so,
yep. And also we love you guys, and we know that the healing from that stuff comes from Christ only.
Yes.
And so take it to him because you can't do it on your own.
Right.
You can't fix it on your own. We are a mess.
If you could, you would have already done it.
Yeah.
You know.
And so we just want to encourage you to find your identity in him and really be what we have named this series, Nestled in Him, because that is where we find true freedom from comparison and from jealousy and from bitterness, and ultimately have relationships and friendships that stand the test of time and that are deep and fulfilling and that aren't based on being good enough and cool enough. And because look, I just can't measure up to that. Never, ever, ever.
So thank you guys for listening. We hope you'll use our hashtag Nestled in Him to post about your friends or the friends that you hope to have. And we hope that you will continue to share this with your friends. If you hear someone talking about how they're struggling with comparison, we would love if you would pass this on, or if you would just share on your social media that we're over here doing this, because I know we have kind of changed directions and some people think that we're still over here doing design, and we're
just in a different lane.
We are in a different lane.
On a different highway.
That's right. And so we would love if you would share if this is something that has been encouraging to you.
Yeah. As we say every week, thanks for taking a peek in our nest.
We hope you come back next week. As always, the door will be open.